Welcome to the Heavy Spoilers Show. I'm your host Paul, and in this video we're breaking down the Thunderbolts with an asterisk. So the movie ends in a big way, and throughout this video we're going to be breaking it down. We'll also be going through what we coming's next and where we think things are going in the MCU. I also want to give a review as currently the whole franchise, it's Schrodinger's MCU. Is it dead? Is it alive? You only know when you look at it, and we'll talk about that more in just a bit. Heavy spoilers ahead though, so if you haven't checked it out, please check out now. Blah blah blah, subscribe, and with that out of the way, thank you for watching. Let's get into Thunderbolts.
Oh no.
Who are you?
I'm Bob.
Okay, so the big thing that comes from the end of the film is that the Fantastic Four are now in the 616. The movie ends with our rocket ship arriving, and it teases some massive things for the future. The first thing this seems to confirm is that Galactus indeed destroyed their world and they're now fleeing to another. This was actually theorized after the release of the recent trailer where Reed said this.
It's my fault. I stretched the bounds of space. And they hurt.
Upon its release, it was even thought that this line had been shifted from where it actually appears in the film. This section could come at the end after Galactus has already destroyed their world. We may close that movie with them traveling on their ship and Reed them blaming himself for what he's done. We've seen throughout the MCU how the Earth was once seen as an inferior planet. However, our constant technological advancements attracted the eyes of enemies. We basically rang the dinner bell and then bigger threats arrived to take us down. Reed Richards is known as the smartest man on Earth, and his probing on his world may have even called in Galactus. The team then may have been unable to stop him, and thus they then had to flee in their life raft. It's something they actually did during Time Runs Out, and this then led into Secret Wars. We've just released a big omnibus with both stories in that, so check it out if you want a rough idea. Just in general, yeah, if you read Jonathan Hickman's Avengers and New Avengers run, you're going to get an amazing story that builds up to everything. Obviously, you can, read them where you want, or you could befriend someone who has them all by hitting the thumbs up. Later on, though, we will talk about how that New Avengers name plays into this film. Now, it's also possible that Reed is deliberately going to other worlds. Starting off at the beginning of Hickman's run takes us to his initial Fantastic Four story, in that Reed builds a device known as a bridge which allows him to see into the multiverse. This initially is done to solve the problems of his world by finding worlds where they've solved the problems already. Every choice creates a branch in an alternate universe, and thus every problem's been solved where Reed's failed on this world. However, this draws the attention of the Council of Reeds and also the Celestials. Galactus is a Celestial himself, and thus they may be adapting elements of that into the film. Potentially though, the Four could destroy Galactus and then just head out into the multiverse anyway. They're pioneers and explorers who may want to go to other worlds. Inevitably though, I think this might lead to incursions, especially if their world hasn't been destroyed. Either way, I want to talk about the rest of the movie in just a bit, but firstly, here's a quick word from our sponsors. Now, before we get into the rest of the breakdown, I've got something that's honestly a game changer, and no, it's not Mephisto finally showing up. I've teamed up with Star Global School of Workforce Development, and they're doing something crazy right now. They're offering completely free courses. I'm talking Lean Pax Sigma, project management, emotional intelligence, all the good stuff that makes your resume look like Tony Stark's. Now here's the kicker. If you want the official certification, you don't pay anything up front. You just register for a scholarship in class, finish the course, and boom, certified legend status unlocked. It's perfect if you're looking to level up, switch careers, or just feel productive while rewatching Heavy Spoilers for the 500th time that day. Definitely worth checking out, links in the description, and the spots are going faster than Quicksilver in a kitchen, so make sure you guys do it as quickly as you can. I love these guys and think that you will too, so definitely check them out in the link at the description. Thank you. So I will talk about the ending in more depth in just a bit, but I feel like we need to give a super quick overview of the plot to give you some context. Because I know some of you are watching this without having seen it, you son of a bitch. The main basis of the plot though is basically about Val trying to tie up her loose ends. Congress is attempting to impeach her for corruption and a number of things connected to Ox Group. As we learn in Captain America Brave New World, Bucky is indeed now a congressman. Now we learn that a lot of Val's loose ends are actually the characters we met over the last couple of years in the MCU. This of course includes the cast of the Thunderbolts, and after they realise they've been tricked into being in the same place at the same time, they decide to join forces. After a fight anyway, which leads to Taskmaster being killed extremely early on. Yeah, I don't think that was a big surprise, and even a couple of days ago, I was joking about how obvious it was. Why is her chair not in this 5-hour live stream? Why is she not doing any of the press tours? Yeah, it was obvious. During the fight, they bang into a containment unit, and this ends up freeing Bob. Played by Lewis Pullman, you might also know him as playing another Bob in Top Gun Maverick. Though he's shy and unassuming initially, we discover there's a darker side to him. Within him is the Void, a dark entity that bonded itself to him when he became the Sentry. Upon interacting with Bob, every hero has a vision of their past and the darkness within them. It's an incredibly touching metaphor for mental health, and they touch upon this throughout the film. Well, I say every hero, Ghost doesn't do it, Red Guardian doesn't either, but the pair talk how it's like a void, and both describe that as being the feeling you have when you're really going through it. Since Natasha's death, she's been on a downward spiral, blaming herself for several things, and how she was used as a weapon. Because of this, she sees a lot of similarities in Bob, who Val now wants to spare. Having survived the Sentry testing, he's an extremely valuable asset. In case you're unfamiliar with the character, he's basically Marvel's darker version of Superman. First introduced in Sentry issue 1 way back in 2000, he's basically your invulnerable man of steel who's faster than a speeding bullet. The connections run deeper than that though, and I think anyone who's ever read Flashpoint or even watched it, you'll immediately recognise how Superman was held hostage by the government there. Upon being freed, he was a force to be reckoned with, but Bob goes far beyond that. Seeing how powerful that he is, he's pretty much sought after by every side. Now the heroes want to save him because Yelena sees a connection with his mental health. Bucky wants to stop him as he's an unstable, overpowered threat, which you could also see as being reflections of when he was used as the Winter Soldier. And Val just wants power, so all these sides fighting with each other, and Val is quite an interesting wildcard. Now residing in Avengers Tower, we finally know she's the one who bought it. Brandon Davis has been asking this in almost every interview with a Marvel cast and crew member since it first went up for sale in Spider-Man Homecoming. So we finally know. Brandon's actually also working on a video at the moment from interviews for this film talking about the stuff you might not know. This includes why John Watts got a special thanks and how the Russo brothers directed the post-credit scene and some extra trivia that I don't want to spoil. But I will link it at the end if it's out now, which I don't know if it is, but he said he's working on it, so if it is, it's at the end. This is where things really kick off from, and the Thunderbolts arrive to stop Sentry. It's an absolutely incredible fight and shows just how overpowered that Sentry is. I think this was one of the standout scenes in the movie, and it was basically just him proving he's worthy of that god status. Even with the kill switch in him, he can't be controlled though. Though Val tries to order him, he obviously doesn't listen, and after a couple of big twists and turns in the fight, the Void's then unleashed. Watching the trailers, I'm sure you've all seen those shadow deaths, and throughout the scene, they look absolutely terrifying. It's one of the most shocking things I've ever seen a comic character do, and in fact it's just a really simple visual. He's just making them shadows, yay! In the end, Yelena embraces the Void and is taken into its dark world. Frantically searching for Bob, she travels through her darkest memories. This forces her to really tackle what she's done, and it's a very defining moment for the character. She does discover Bob in a good memory though, and eventually the team work together to save him. This involves Bob going against the Void and managing to stop it before it takes him over. Turns out Bob was addicted to meth at one point, and that addiction has severely messed him up. He also had an extremely abusive dad and a mother who told him to stay in place every time he stood up to him. Because of this, he just stands back and lets things happen. He's easily controlled by Val, and she even went to him in a motherly fashion to try and manipulate him. I think the group saving Bob, that works as a great way to remind people that they're not alone. The film works as a great metaphor for people coming together to save someone from either depression or even thoughts on ending their own life, which is such a deep thing to touch upon in a superhero movie. The team then escape the Void, and we see Bob doesn't remember any of the devastating attacks. They then attempt to chase down Val, only to run straight into a press conference. This is by Global Nexus Broadcasting, with Nexus being a word describing several things in Marvel. Nexus beings are crucial to their universe, and in the comics they're the same across every reality. It's also possible that a Nexus being is the prime hero that causes a timeline to decay once they die. The Nexus is also where all information flows through, and this appeared in Age of Ultron. Either way, Val here announces them as the new Avengers. Obviously, this is a big part of Hickman's run, and it explains what the asterisk is for. I did even wonder, right, if they might Birds of Prey the movie at some point. In case you don't remember, yeah, Birds of Prey, that was initially titled Birds of Prey, and the fantabulous emancipation of one Harley Quinn. When the movie bombed though, Warner Brothers, in all their wisdom, they panicked and they quickly changed the name to Harley Quinn. Didn't massively draw people in though, surprisingly. This movie is expected to do a lot better though, but I do think it would be funny if they changed the title down the line. The asterisk is being used heavily in the marketing, and we've also just launched a brand new Thunderbolts shirt for this at the merch store below. Playing off the original Thundercats logo, this design was dreamed up by MT. I think you guys are going to love it, and we also have our new Galactus shirt just in time for the Fantastic Four. This is based off Gaia's Saturn eats his son, and it comes in both single and double-sided prints. You'll want to devour them, and you'll also get 20% off if you buy 3 shirts at the store. Shabow! Now though Yelena tells Val they own her, they're definitely down to accept some good publicity. So they take the name, and their title card's then scribbled out to say New Avengers. Anyway, you don't have to wait too long to get the mid-credits scene, which is about Red Guardian's cereal. He's basically posing and waiting for fans to come, but no one's really interested. We do see that there's an image on the box of the New Avengers though, and he gives this to a woman who then takes it and puts it down. Where we go next though is the end credit scene, which takes place 14 months later. Rolling into the new headquarters, we get some jokes and nods to the greater world. Turns out Sam's suing the team for trademark infringement, and Cap 4 of course had a big focus on him rebuilding the team. However, the government officially announced they're the Avengers, so they don't get how he doesn't understand it. US Agent even brings up how he has a shield, and he was of course announced as Captain America in a very similar way. So nicely plays off their conflict again, and he even says on your left at one point in the movie. They also talk about how if it's the Avengers versus New Avengers, then the internet's made it clear which side they're supporting. Kinda like when Russell was announced as Cap, and people were calling him Captain America when you order him from Wish. Sam isn't listening to Bucky either, and they're not getting brought into the space crisis. Yes, outer space has a big crisis going on, but it's not related to anything DC crisis. Red Guardian has a thought though, and he shows up wearing a racing jumpsuit with a new logo, which we'll call them the Avengers, but with a Z. Burying the lead there though, but in space there's currently lots of anomalies happening which were first set up during the Marvels. The jump gates had been messing up and universes were coming together. I wonder if they're going to start seeing incursions which come from the Avengers and New Avengers run. Basically this involves the multiverse collapsing as Earths from across it crash into each other. Phasing through the barriers between dimensions, they then destroyed each other upon colliding. Now in case you don't know, the Earth is the center of every universe, and thus if it's destroyed, the universe goes too. So I do wonder if that might have happened with the Fantastic Four as well. Now there are ways to avoid this destruction. The first is that you can destroy your own world, which yes, sign me up to that one. The second is that you can destroy the other. The third is you can phase the worlds through each other, which might even be how Ghost is brought in down the line. All the options come with a cost though, and I think this will be explored more in Doomsday. I think Sentry is also a massive wildcard as well. He's extremely overpowered, but they do come with restrictions. If Sentry comes out, then there's a risk the Void will as well. The team are then alerted to a rocket from space, which is the arrival of the Fantastic Four. We do hear it's an extra-dimensional vessel, and its design's not akin to their world. So not only are the Fantastic Four out of time, they're also out of their universe. Saying that though the film seems like it might also be set in the 60s, I do wonder if it's actually in present day, but their world just has that kind of style to it. Sort of like how Tim Burton's Batman, it's got a very heavy 30s aesthetic, but it's set in 1989. Either way, I think it also hints at a possible plot they could do with the Avengers versus the Avengers with a Z. If the New Avengers make first contact with another world, that could be seen as something massive. Obviously, we've had people come across from other universes, but the 616 hasn't dealt with it in any official capacity, that I know of at least. However, meeting people from another world, it would be a big thing to have on your side. I even wonder if the Fantastic Four might come in screaming that something's coming to destroy their world, but all anyone wants to do is photo ops. They did something similar at the beginning of Crisis on Infinite Earths with DC, and not that Marvel will necessarily rip that off, but normally in these sorts of stories, they have a messenger arrive first. They often come with a warning that doom is coming, and then all the heroes have to unite. That's what the Silver Surfer's used for in a number of their stories, and hell, even thinking about how they did Infinity War, Bruce Banner was used as that messenger archetype there. So it definitely happens in a lot of these stories, and yeah, potentially that could be how the Fantastic Four's introduced it, with them coming with a warning. Lots of things to think about though, and personally I think it's one of the best post-credit scenes we've had in a while. It's kind of in line with the one from Infinity War where it teases a symbol while setting up the next film. Which yeah, though I have mixed feelings on the Captain Marvel movie, that tease got me really excited to see it. And lots of others as well, because it did like over $1 billion. There was a time though where post-credit scenes would pretty much be used to set up the next film, and then you got really excited for that. Recently though, there's been like a weird trend where they've just done random scenes without even any hint or connection to any of the movies announced. I think it got counted up and there was like 13 credit scenes so far that haven't been paid off. Obviously you can't rush them all, but yeah, some of these movies are like 5 years old now, and I can look at the slate and none of this seems to be paying off anytime soon. So having this, boom, Fantastic Four's next, and I'm really excited to see where they go with it. Obviously it also works in a similar way to what Captain Marvel did, in that we get the tease and then are kind of going back to learn what led to this scene. Captain Marvel was of course a prequel, and technically Fantastic Four is going to tell their origins and then explain how we got here. So yeah, it builds off that, but considering the success of that movie, it just seems the smartest way to do it.
Milena? Elena!
Now as for the other Easter eggs and nice little touches, the Marvel Fanfare logo turns to black to foreshadow the void. We also have Yelena fighting people with an overhead shot that draws attention to their shadows on the floor. I felt that visually this foreshadowed the shadows the void turns people into, foreshadowing the shadows. At the hearing, which is akin to the one in Iron Man 2, and at the end of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Val also mentions the last president becoming the Hulk. Focus on last president, meaning he's definitely out of office now. At the Avengers party, we also have Chitauri handcuffs, Loki's scepter, and the giant A from Stark Tower. Might be the Avengers one, but it was from the Stark one originally, mate. Don't go correcting me in the comments. I also felt the story where the punchline was "not on my watch" was also kind of playing off, boom, you looking for this? It's also possible that Anya was a nod to Anya Lensher, who died as a child during a fire. However, she was Magneto's kid there, so that might be a reach. Either way, we also get the vault, which comes from the comics. This is a maximum security facility located in the Colorado Rockies. Red Guardian's business and the scenes of him driving also feel like they're riffing off season 3 of What If. During the car ride, he talks about how they couldn't bring light from the darkness, which foreshadows what they do on Bob. Sonic weapons are also used during this chase, with them being akin to the ones used on the Hulk in The Incredible Hulk. Bucky also comes in and spins a shotgun on a motorbike, which felt like a reference to Terminator 2. There's also, of course, the Thunderbolts name, which was actually a nod to Thunderbolts Ross in the comics, but they've changed that up so it's now named after Yelena's football team. Or soccer team, sorry guys. Beyond that, I think the film took clear inspiration from The Boys. Not only is Val like one of the heads of Vought, but Sentry also gets his hair dyed blonde like Homelander. During the fight, he stops bullets mid-air, which felt like a reference to Neo in The Matrix. In the credits, we also get lots of things like Not My Avengers, The Hollywood Reporter, the characters displayed to look like a Queen album cover, and Red Guardian posing on the Empire State Building like King Kong. Yelena is also shown on the Weekend Doer poster, and on the cereal box we see US Agent wearing a beret. That's obviously replacing his helmet, which I actually thought you looked fantastic, mate. Don't listen to him. Now as for my thoughts on the movie, we're back! We are back! We're so back! Now, I know every time there's a Marvel film, we have this discourse, and it'll take a while and a number of home runs before confidence is back with the brand. However, I think this was another big step in the right direction, and for me, it's the best film since the last one. Now, but it's nice to see a Marvel movie that manages to balance the comedic tone while also taking itself seriously. I find if you go too much into the comedy side, you end up with Love and Thunder, and if you go too much to the other, you end up with The Eternals. This strikes a great balance between both and feels like it hits the target on what Marvel really made their name on. Like that first Iron Man film, it's funny, but it takes itself seriously as well. Marvel have always been great at making team-up movies, and that's pretty much what made them what they are. However, it felt like Guardians was both a gift and a curse, because that film was often described as the one with the raccoon and the talking tree, and when they made it successful, people thought they could make any character a big name, and they just got all these side ones and threw out project after project. A million different Disney Plus shows. However, just like you have in comics, not every single person reads every single comic on the market, and it quickly gets flooded. People then lose their way and just stop caring. Being completely honest with you, I didn't think they could make a movie with these side characters that they've introduced in other stuff. However, they proved me wrong, and almost all of them now have me interested in what they're going to do next. That's because the movie makes you care rather than telling you that you should. I think Marvel definitely panicked recently, and that's probably why they got Robert Downey Jr. back. He was kind of the break the glass in case of emergency cast member that made you feel like they didn't have confidence in the new batch. Whether it was the Marvels bombing, or hell, even Cap 4, I don't even think it's broke even yet, there was definitely the worry that they had to revert to old tricks. I think the main problem with those films, though, is that they just didn't really do anything new, or even advance the characters in any significant ways. So it just felt like a stopgap to nothing at points. Here, though, every character grows and goes on a journey, which is exactly what we need. Behind the camera, it's also nice to see a team here that know what they're doing. This feels like the rigid quality control Marvel used to have, and they've been allowed to execute a vision. Like Thanos. The script is really tight though. I don't feel like there was tons and tons of reshoots. It's not going insane with the CGI, and you can tell they try to do a lot of stuff practically. Obviously, you do need CGI for the bigger stuff, but they kept this really tight-knit. It's also not overly reliant on nostalgia or cameos, or even focused on just setting up future movies. The focus is right, the characters are given that focus here, and because of that, the story feels far more impactful. So yeah, I think it's a really strong entry, and one of my favourite MCU films over the last couple of years. I laughed, cried, I was excited, and it reminded me of why I fell in love with Marvel in the first place. Which yeah, I don't think it's any secret that I've recently just became detached from a lot of the stuff recently. This won me back round though, and I'm now actually really excited for Fantastic Four as well. So if you're a fan of this channel, I know a lot of you kind of feel the same way as me, where it's like we like this stuff, but they've been putting out some adult stuff recently as well. But if you're one of those people, it's a high recommend from me, especially if you've lost the love for the genre or you just want a good Marvel movie again. Not those Sony ones, but yeah, give this one a watch. I think if you've got a love of Marvel in the past, you'll also love this as well. And yeah, that would be the best thing I could say about it. Anyway, that wraps up our first Thunderbolts video, but there will be more. Heavy spoilers will return. If you enjoyed it, please hit the thumbs up and make sure you subscribe for more breakdowns like this. Did you know as well that members of the channel also get early access to videos? If you click the join button, you get at least one breakdown a week before anyone else. Costs just 99 cents a month, makes a massive difference to us. Hopefully doesn't make a massive difference to you, but yeah, thank you guys for all your support, because it means a lot. It genuinely means a hell of a lot to me. Again, we've got our merch store if you want to pick up a t-shirt, and if you want something else to watch, we've got a video on screen right now. That is MT's video on Sinners, which is definitely worth watching if you've seen that movie. If not, then huge thank you for sitting through this video. I've been your host Paul, you've been the best, and I'll see you next time. Take care, peace.